Hey everybody, Josh here with a look at another Star Wars toy. And today we're going to do a toy unboxing video. Today we're going to unbox a Black Series 6-inch 2-pack, Toys R Us exclusive. This is Admiral Ackbar and First Order Officer from The Last Jedi. So let's go get a closer look at these guys. Come on. Alright everybody, here we are today with a figure 2-pack from the Black Series line. This is Admiral Ackbar and a First Order Officer from The Last Jedi. And this pack is a Toys R Us exclusive. And if you look right here on the center of the package, you'll see there's a little Toys R Us logo exclusive sticker. And we are going to unbox these guys today, but before we get that far, just real quickly want to spin the packaging around, let you guys take a look at it. And, oops, I'm going to have to adjust a little bit here. But if you look here, you can see on the side, they're telling you who's in the box. Admiral Ackbar and the First Order, and because, or the First Order Officer, excuse me. And because this is a Toys R Us exclusive figure, there's no number applied to it. So, and then if we look on the back here, we have nice pictures of Admiral Ackbar and a First Order Officer, and I'll go ahead and read the little descriptions to you guys. The officers of the First Order military forces show unwavering allegiance to Supreme Leader Snoke, leading his massive armies and fleet in a relentless drive to dominate the galaxy. And then we have Admiral Ackbar. Admiral Ackbar became a Grand Admiral in the New Republic, winning many victories, including the pivotal Battle of Jakku. He retired to Mon Cala, but was coaxed back into service with the Resistance by Leia Organa. So I guess what they're trying to tell us there is Leia is the one who brought him out of retirement and back into service. And there you can see both the figures, and let's open this thing. Let's do this. Alright. Okay, and there they are, guys. And each of them comes with a little blaster. So let's see what they do. I'll tell you what, I think it's about time to invest in some Black Series figure stands here. Alright, and then we have the First Order Officer, and each of them has their own pistol. Alright, and we are done with that. Now let's check out Admiral Ackbar here. Very cool, and as you can see, he's in a officer's uniform. And I'm already a little bit disappointed because I don't see a holster for that blaster. But we will look at that a little bit closer here. Yep. No holster for Admiral Ackbar. And that's one thing I've always been impressed with most of these Black Series figures. Most all of them come with a holster, and I can already see one on the First Order Officer, but we'll get to him in a second here. Alright, I just want to real quick let you guys take a look at his blaster pistol. And again, I find it easier if the figure actually holds it instead of me, because my hands are a lot bigger. So, right there you can see his blaster, and real quick, and another thing I'm noticing right off the bat with Admiral Ackbar here, and I'll just real quick let you guys take another look at the blaster that he comes with, is if you look at his hands here real quick, you'll see he can really only hold it in one hand, and they even if you look, you can see they shortened one of his fingers, or it looks like, or maybe it's supposed to be that way because it's that way on both hands, but you can see his two middle fingers are a lot longer and the rest of his fingers are a lot shorter. And you can also see they have the trigger finger out on him to line up with the trigger guard. And you can see he's got his hand in a position where he can hold the blaster with his right hand. And if you look at his other hand, you can see it's more of a open palm position, so he's not going to hold the blaster in his left hand. So just be aware of that if you're thinking about purchasing these guys here. Now, real quick, let's run through his movements, and I'm already seeing something different about Admiral Ackbar here. He actually has a movable jaw. Very interesting. It's the first character on Black Series I've ever seen do that. Very nice. Okay, so if we look at his head movements, from left to right, there's not a whole lot there, just a little bit of wiggle. And the up and down movement doesn't really move his whole head. So if you look, when I push back on his head, it opens his mouth, which I like that. That's very cool. It's a drop. Very nice. And you can see he actually has his little catfish whiskers hanging down in front of his mouth. Very cool. And the eyes are very well done. They're very lifelike. He almost looks alive. Very nice sculpt of Admiral Ackbar. I like it a lot. And you can put him in his mouth in the closed position, so he doesn't have to walk around in a shocked look all the time. Oh, it's a trap. Very nice. Okay, so that's all for his head movement. Then if we look at his arms, let's see here. You got round and round at the shoulder and up and down. And then at his elbows, you have a rotation and an up and down movement. Hi, everybody. And then, as you can see, his forearms are a little bit different because he has these big Popeye-like forearms that are very wide. So then you move into his wrist movement, and you have a rotational movement and up and down. So he can bend his wrist in two directions. And then looking at his waist here, you have a rotational movement at the belt. And that is it. Okay, and so looking at his hip movement here, okay, so you do have back and forth movement. And then as well, you can rotate his legs. So if up here by the hip, there's another point of articulation, or at the upper part of his legs where you can rotate them. And then we have knee movement up and down. And then finally, you have his ankle movement, which you have up and down on the ankle, and then a rotational movement, which is, as far as I'm concerned, really going above and beyond. How many other action figures do you know out there that actually have 2 points of articulation on the ankle? Very cool. Okay. I'm trying to see if I can get him to stand here without... All right, we did it. There he goes. Okay, he's a little bit top heavy because if you look here, you can see it appears Admiral Ackbar may have put on a little bit of weight since Return of the Jedi, so he's a little bit of a heavy figure. He's kind of a little bit thicker than most Black Series figures. So, but that's okay because everybody loves Admiral Ackbar, and if you're not familiar with who Admiral Ackbar is, he makes appearances in multiple Star Wars locations. His first appearance was in Return of the Jedi at the Battle of Endor. He commanded that battle for the Rebel Alliance. And then if you're also familiar with the Clone Wars animated series, there's a small arc of episodes where he appears as a much younger commander. And it's a very good story arc. If you watch it, it's on the on his home world, and they're having a little civil war, and then the Republic and the Separatists get involved, and it's a underwater world, so there's a lot of underwater combat. So if you're looking for something a little bit different in the Wars series, go find the story arc that involves Admiral Ackbar. He is in that TV show. And then, of course, he makes an appearance very briefly in The Force Awakens. And if you guys remember correctly, he is also makes a very brief appearance in The Last Jedi and is actually killed off in The Last Jedi in the same scene where Leia is blown out into space. If you watch closely, you'll actually see Admiral Ackbar get sucked out into space as well. But you got to have a sharp eye to see that. So, but there he is, everyone's favorite admiral, Admiral Ackbar. And again, this guy does not want to stand up very well. Okay. All right, guys, and we're looking at the First Order officer. And let's take a closer look at his blaster here. And it is a little one there. So it's going to be a little bit tricky for the camera to focus on it. But you can see it's a little tiny First Order blaster there. And again, you can see his one hand here is designed to hold the blaster, because you can see he has the trigger finger out. And if you look at his other hand here, it'll still hold the gun, but it's more in a open fist position. So you can see there's no trigger finger out or anything like that. And so what we want to do, so I just want to show you guys, he will hold it in the other hand if that's what you want. Come on. But as you can see, the trigger finger, there's no trigger finger that lines up with it or anything like that. So it's going to look a little bit awkward, but you can have him hold it in both hands. And then real quick here, I'm looking, you can see this guy does have a holster. So you can holster his sidearm here. Oh, you know what? I'm starting to think I put it in backwards. There we go. So there you can see he holsters the gun. Very nice. And it's in there real well. It isn't coming out. Very cool. So, real quickly here, I just want to let you guys get a look at the figure and the way he's dressed and set up. And, you know, to be completely honest, it doesn't seem to be a huge amount of difference between a First Order officer and an Imperial officer, other than the hats are significantly different. But other than that, they look very similar. So, of course, it's like that with a lot of the outfits in the new sequel trilogy. But real quick here, let's run through his movements, and I'm checking because I'm curious. Does the hat come off? And oh my goodness, it does. Okay, very cool. I didn't think it would. So there you go. You can see the hat does come off. And here is what it looks like up close. And I'd be really impressed if you could fold these flaps down. But nope. Okay, so there is your First Order officer cap. Very cool. Okay, so let's check him out here. Very nice. And you know, I can't think of the actor's name off the top of my head, but I know this is just supposed to be a generic officer, but he reminds me of that actor, and I can't remember his name, but he played Juggernaut in the third X-Men movie. I'm sorry, I apologize, I can't remember his name, but this is what this guy looks like to me. So, but let's run through his movements real quick. So, on his head, you're going to have up and down movement and side to side. Very nice. And on his shoulder joint here, you have a rotational movement and up and down as well. And at his elbow, you got a rotational movement and and up and down movement. And looking at his wrist, you can rotate it, and he has very minimal up and down wrist movement. And the reason for that is, and it might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but the sleeve of his uniform comes all the way down really far past his wrist joint. So it's kind of restricting the movement of up and down. So it looks like it's supposed to move, but, and again, it's a little bit difficult to see, but the sleeve of his shirt is coming way past the wrist point of articulation, so it kind of restricts it. And then, so let's look at his waist movement here. So, wow, he's like spring-loaded. Okay, so it feels like there's a rubber band in there, and he's spring-loaded. And I don't know if that's by design or a mistake or what, but he does have wrist movement or waist movement, I apologize, from side to side. And as you can see, when I twist him, he springs back a little bit. So that's very cool. I don't know if that was done on purpose or what. Okay, and so let's look at his leg movement here. As you can see, he has the part of his uniform is hanging down, so it's going to restrict the movement a little bit. So you have forward and backwards on his hip movement. And then again, there's a point of articulation at the top of his leg, so you can rotate the leg all the way around. Okay, and then we have knee movement in one direction, up and down. And then at his ankles, you have up and down movement and, again, a rotational movement. All right. So let's pop his hat back on him here. And the hat stays on very well. You'd think with it just being a little cap like that, it might flop off, but it actually kind of like suction cups on there. It's very cool. Okay. Very nice. And again, I'm not sure I have this plaster in here facing the right way. I don't know. I guess it's owner's choice. You can turn it which way you want. I think either way looks appropriate, to be honest with you. But there we go. All right. Let's unholster this bad boy. And very cool. All right. Now, can we get him to stand on his own? All right. Very cool, guys. And there they are, everybody. From the Black Series line, this is a figure 2-pack. From The Last Jedi, this is Admiral Ackbar and a First Order officer. And thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Bye.